The other day I was talking to my neighbor Linda, and she told me she threw away almost $20 in fruit last week. Strawberries she bought on Sunday, blueberries that turned soft by Wednesday, a bag of cherries that looked fine in the store and were covered in mold by the time she got home. $20 just sitting in her refrigerator, going bad before she could eat it. And she looked at me and said, "I don't know why this keeps happening. I buy it fresh and it goes bad within days." And I just nodded, because I've heard that same story 1,000 times from 1,000 different people, and the answer is always the same. The fruit is not the problem. The way you're storing it is the problem. And the grocery stores? They are counting on you not knowing this. See, here's the thing about modern fruit. It gets picked before it's fully ripe, so it can survive shipping. That means the natural ripening process is interrupted, and once it hits your refrigerator, it starts losing moisture and flavor within hours. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, cherries, these are delicate fruits with high water content, and they were never meant to sit in a plastic container in a 36-degree refrigerator for 5 days. But you know what? There is a way to keep any fruit fresh for a full month using something that costs about $1, and the supermarkets figured this out decades ago. They use it in their cold storage rooms. They use it in their distribution centers. And then they charge you full price for fruit that's already halfway to going bad, because they know you don't know this trick. I am going to show it to you right now, and once you see how simple it is, you are going to be a little angry, and that's fair. That anger is earned. My name is Sue Ellen, and if you're new here, I'm glad you found this channel. I spent most of my life on a farm in Kentucky. Grew up canning and preserving and stretching a grocery budget the way my mother taught me and her mother taught her. I started making videos a few years ago because I kept watching people get ripped off by the food industry and not even know it. If you want to learn how to stop wasting money on food that goes bad in your fridge, then subscribe to this channel and hit that bell, because I put out a new video every week, and most of them are about exactly this: how to make your food last longer, how to make it yourself, how to stop letting the grocery stores decide when you have to throw things away. And before you go anywhere, leave me a comment. I read every single one, and I respond when I can. I want to know what fruit you struggle with the most. Is it berries, cherries, something else? Tell me in the comments, because that tells me what to make videos about next. All right, let's get into it. That $20 Linda threw away? That is completely preventable. And I'm not talking about some complicated system, not some special appliance or gadget you have to order online. I'm talking about 2 things you can buy right now at any dollar store, probably already have in your kitchen, and that have been used by professional fruit handlers for over 50 years. The first is a brown paper bag, not a plastic bag, not a container with a lid, a brown paper bag, the kind you used to get your lunch packed in when you were in school. And the second is baking soda, the same box of baking soda you keep in your refrigerator to stop odors. That's it. That's the whole trick. 2 things, about $1 total, and you can keep strawberries fresh for a full month. Blueberries too. Raspberries, cherries, blackberries, any delicate fruit that usually turns soft within days. This works. Now I need to explain why this works, because if I just tell you to do it without explaining, you're going to forget, or you're going to do it slightly wrong and then blame me. So let me tell you what's actually happening inside your refrigerator right now. Fresh fruit, especially berries, is alive. I mean that scientifically. It's still respiring, it's still using oxygen and producing carbon dioxide, and it's releasing moisture through a process called transpiration. When you put fresh berries in a plastic container, the kind the grocery store puts them in, you're trapping that moisture. It can't escape. It sits in that little container right there against the fruit, and within a day or two you have condensation on the inside of the plastic, and that moisture is the perfect breeding ground for mold. The fruit suffocates in its own humidity. That's why your strawberries get soft and develop fuzzy white spots before you've even eaten half the container. It's not because they're old. It's because they're drowning in their own moisture. A brown paper bag changes all of that. Paper is porous, it breathes, it absorbs excess moisture from the fruit, and it releases it slowly into the air around it. That creates a microenvironment inside your produce drawer that is slightly drier than the inside of a plastic container, but still humid enough to keep the fruit alive and fresh. The bag acts as a regulator. It soaks up the condensation, the transpiration moisture, all of it, and then it lets just enough humidity stay in the air to keep the fruit from drying out. It's the same principle that keeps bread fresh in a paper bag versus a plastic bag. You have probably noticed that yourself. Put bread in plastic and it gets soft and moldy within days. Put it in a paper bag and it stays firm longer. Same science. Fruit works the same way. Now add the baking soda, and this is where it gets really interesting. Baking soda does two things in this context. First, it absorbs ethylene gas. Fruit, as it ripens and even after it's picked, produces ethylene gas. This is a natural plant hormone that speeds up ripening and eventually causes overripening and decay. Apples produce a lot of it, which is why you may have heard not to store apples next to other produce. But berries produce it too, in smaller amounts, and when they're trapped in a sealed plastic container, that ethylene gas builds up and accelerates the spoilage process. Baking soda absorbs that gas. It pulls it out of the air inside the bag and neutralizes it. Second, baking soda is a mild antifungal. It inhibits the growth of the mold spores that are literally everywhere. They're in the air in your kitchen. They're on the surface of the fruit. They're inevitable. But baking soda keeps them from taking hold. It doesn't kill everything, but it slows the mold growth significantly, enough that the fruit can stay fresh for weeks longer than it would otherwise. Let me give you the exact steps because this only works if you do it right. First, you need to sort your fruit. This is the step most people skip, and it's the most important one. Take your berries out of whatever container they came in and look at every single one. Any berry that is already soft, already bruised, already has any sign of mold, throw it away or eat it right now, but do not put it in the bag with the good ones. One bad berry will contaminate the whole batch. I mean it. One moldy strawberry in a closed container with 12 good ones will take them all down within 48 hours. So take your time with this step. Sort carefully. Discard anything that isn't perfect. Once you have sorted your good fruit, take a clean brown paper bag, and I'm talking about the lunch-size bags, the medium ones, not the huge grocery bags. You want the bag to be about half full of fruit, not stuffed. If you stuff it too full, you reduce airflow and defeat the purpose. Leave room for air to move around the fruit. Fold the top of the bag loosely. Don't seal it shut, just fold it over once or twice so it's closed enough that the fruit is contained, but open enough that air can still get in and out. Then grab your box of baking soda and sprinkle about 2 tablespoons inside the bag. That's not very much. You don't need to cover the bottom of the bag. 2 tablespoons sprinkled over the fruit, that's all. Then close the bag and gently shake it so the baking soda distributes evenly across the bottom and the sides. Now put the bag in your refrigerator, but not just anywhere. Put it in the produce drawer, the one at the bottom of your refrigerator that is designed for fruit and vegetables. That drawer has different humidity controls than the rest of your fridge. If your produce drawer has settings, set it to the lower humidity setting. Usually that's the setting with the lines facing upward, which indicates vent open for lower humidity. Not all refrigerators have adjustable drawers, but if yours does, use it. The cooler, slightly drier air in that drawer, combined with the paper bag and baking soda, is exactly what commercial fruit storage facilities use to keep berries fresh for shipping across the country. You are doing at home what the professionals do in their warehouses, and it costs about $1. Check the bag after 2 or 3 days. You don't need to open it fully, just look inside. If the bag feels damp, if you see any condensation at all, open it up and let it air out for 10 or 15 minutes, and then close it again. Dampness is the enemy. The paper bag should feel dry to the touch. If it feels damp, open it up, let the moisture escape, and close it again. This is why I said to use the produce drawer, because the lower humidity in that drawer means this shouldn't happen often. But if it does, just open and air it out. That's it. 5 minutes of your time and your fruit lasts an extra 3 weeks. Now I'm going to go through the most common fruits and give you a realistic timeline because I want you to know what to expect. Strawberries, properly stored in a paper bag with baking soda in the produce drawer, will stay fresh for 25 to 30 days. That's not a guess. That's based on what commercial fruit handlers report and what I have personally verified in my own kitchen more times than I can count. The key is sorting. If you buy a container of strawberries and half of them are already soft or have starting mold, no amount of paper bags and baking soda will save them. But if you sort them and put only the good ones in the bag, 25 days is completely realistic. Blueberries last about the same amount of time, 20 to 30 days, because they have that waxy protective coating that helps them retain moisture. Raspberries are a little more delicate, so you're looking at 15 to 20 days, maybe a little less in the heat of summer. Blackberries, 15 to 20 days as well. Cherries, if you sort them well, can go 20 to 25 days. Grapes, if you remove them from the cluster and sort each one individually, can last up to a month, though they will start to lose some firmness after the first 2 weeks. The thing that surprises people most is how dramatic the difference is compared to the way they're storing fruit right now. If you put a container of strawberries in a plastic container in your refrigerator today, right now, and I put the same kind of strawberries in a paper bag with baking soda, mine will still be firm and edible 3 weeks from now, and yours will be a fuzzy jar of mold. I've done this demonstration for friends and family more times than I can count, and the reaction is always the same. They open the bag after 3 weeks and they just stare at it because they cannot believe that's what fresh strawberries look like at the 3-week mark. The fruit isn't dying faster. You're just giving it the environment it needs to stay alive longer. And let me be clear about something because I know someone out there is about to comment this. This is not about organic versus conventional. This is not about buying expensive heirloom fruit. This is not about anything except basic science. This works on conventionally grown supermarket strawberries just as well as it works on organic ones from the farmer's market. The ethylene gas, the moisture, the mold, these things don't care whether the fruit costs $4 or $14. If you store it right, it lasts. If you store it wrong, it doesn't. That's it. That is the whole story. Now I want to tell you a quick story about how I learned this because it illustrates exactly what I'm talking about when I say the industry doesn't want you to know this. About 8 years ago, Earl and I went to visit a cousin of his who ran a produce distribution warehouse down in Tennessee. Not a big operation, just a mid-sized one. They distributed to grocery stores in about a 4-state radius. He gave us a tour of the cold storage rooms, and I noticed something I had never seen before. All the berries, the delicate stuff, was stored in these open crates with brown paper laid over the top. No plastic wrap, no sealed containers, just paper laid over the top of the crates. And I asked him about it. I said, "Why aren't you using containers with lids?" And he looked at me like I had asked a very silly question. He said, "Because the fruit can't breathe in plastic." He said the paper keeps the moisture even, keeps the ethylene gas from building up, and it costs almost nothing. He said they'd been doing it that way for decades, and that the grocery stores that bought from them always remarked on how fresh the fruit looked when it arrived. Well, some of the stores started requesting that the fruit be delivered in sealed plastic containers because they thought it looked more appealing on the shelf. And he told us, flat out, that the fruit would arrive looking good but would go bad in the store within a day or two. He said they knew it. The stores knew it. And they did it anyway because the plastic looked better to the customer, even though it meant the customer took it home and it went bad in 3 days. That conversation changed the way I thought about food storage forever. Here was a man who had been in the produce business his whole life, telling me that the industry knows exactly how to keep fruit fresh, and they choose plastic containers anyway because of how the fruit looks on the shelf. Not because it works better, because it looks better, for about 48 hours. And then you take it home and you put it in your refrigerator and it starts going bad and you have to throw it away, and then you go back to the store and buy more. That is the system. That is how it works. And this is the part where I tell you that I get a little angry, because I think you have a right to be angry too. You are paying premium prices for fruit that has been deliberately stored in a way that makes it go bad faster so that you will buy more. That is not a theory. That is documented in the produce distribution industry. They know. They have known for decades. They just decided that the profit from you buying more fruit outweighed the cost of you throwing half of it away. And you know what the solution is? A brown paper bag and some baking soda. About $1. That is the secret they spent millions of dollars making sure you never heard. Now let me address a few things that people always ask me. First, what about grapes and bananas and apples? Each of those has a slightly different storage requirement. Bananas should never go in the refrigerator because the cold damages the cell structure and they turn brown and mealy. Keep bananas on the counter away from other fruit and they will last 5 to 7 days. Apples store best in the refrigerator, but away from other produce because they produce so much ethylene gas. You can put apples in a paper bag if you want. It will help, but they don't need the baking soda the way berries do. Grapes should be kept dry. Do not wash grapes before storing them because the moisture accelerates mold growth. Put them in a paper bag, yes, but not washed, and they will last 3 weeks to a month. The paper bag trick works for almost any fruit, honestly, and the baking soda is especially helpful for anything that tends to get moldy quickly. Berries are the ones that need it most because of their high water content and thin skins. Second question I get all the time. Can I use this with frozen fruit? This is for fresh fruit storage, not freezing. But if you have fruit that's about to go bad and you know you won't eat it in time, by all means freeze it. Wash it, sort it, spread it on a baking sheet in a single layer in the freezer until it's frozen solid. Then transfer it to a freezer bag. It will keep for 6 months easily, and it's perfect for smoothies or baking. Don't freeze it in the plastic container from the store, though. Spread it on a sheet pan first. Otherwise, you end up with one solid block of frozen fruit that you have to hammer apart every time you want a handful. Third question. Does this work with store-bought cut fruit, like those packages of pre-cut pineapple or mango? It does, with a small caveat. Pre-cut fruit has already been processed, which means the cell walls have been damaged, moisture loss is accelerated, and the clock is ticking faster. That said, put it in a paper bag with a tablespoon of baking soda and it will last an extra 2 or 3 days in the refrigerator. It's not going to turn a 3-day shelf life into 30 days, but adding even a few days to pre-cut fruit is significant when you're trying to reduce waste. Now I want to talk about the cost because I think this part matters. The average American family throws away between $1,500 and $2,000 worth of food every year. I have seen that number come from multiple sources and I believe it. Fruit is a major part of that. A family that spends $40 a week on fresh fruit and throws away a quarter of it because it goes bad is literally burning $10 every single week. That's $500 a year in fruit alone. $500 that is sitting in your garbage can or your compost bin, gone. Now imagine you learn this paper bag trick and you cut that waste in half. That's $250 a year back in your pocket. For a $1 investment in paper bags and baking soda. That is not an exaggeration. That is basic math, and that is exactly why I make these videos. Because the information is out there. It exists. And yet somehow it got buried. Somehow every single algorithm decided that a video about how to keep fruit fresh for a month using a dollar store trick was less valuable than a video about some celebrity drama. And I don't believe in accidents. I think someone made sure that information like this stayed hard to find, because if everyone knew it, they would buy less fruit. And the industry needs you to keep buying more. Let me walk you through what this looks like in practice one more time so you have it clear. You come home from the store with a pint of strawberries. Before you even put them in the refrigerator, you empty the container onto a clean plate or cutting board. You go through every single strawberry, any that are soft, any that have a bruise, any with white spots starting. Set those aside. Eat them right now as a snack, put them in a smoothie, do whatever you want with them, but they don't go in the bag. The good strawberries go into a medium brown paper bag. Sprinkle 2 tablespoons of baking soda over the top. Fold the top of the bag loosely. Put the bag in the produce drawer of your refrigerator. Check it every 3 days. If the bag feels damp, open it and let it air out for 10 minutes. That's the entire system. That is everything you need to know. It takes about 3 minutes total, and it will keep those strawberries fresh for 3 to 4 weeks. The same strawberries in the original plastic container from the store? 4 days, maybe 5 if you're lucky and you don't open the container. I want to say one more thing before I close this out. The reason I keep making these videos, the reason I spend my evenings and weekends filming and editing and writing descriptions and responding to comments, is because I remember what it was like to not know this. I remember when I was a young wife and mother working 2 jobs and grocery day was stressful because I never knew if I had bought enough fruit or if it was all going to rot before the kids could eat it. I remember throwing away containers of berries and feeling guilty about the money, even though there was nothing I could have done differently with the information I had, the information I have now. And I think about young mothers today or anyone who's trying to stretch a paycheck, and I think they deserve to know this. They deserve to know that it is not their fault that their fruit goes bad. It is the fault of a system that has kept this simple, cheap, effective trick hidden because it is more profitable to let you throw food away. If you found this video useful, subscribe to this channel. I put out 1 new video every single week, and most of them are about exactly this: practical, cheap, effective ways to make your food last longer and your grocery bills shrink. And if you know someone who is always complaining about how their fruit goes bad too fast, send them this video. Share it in your Facebook groups. Text it to your sister. Put it on whatever platform you use. The way we take care of each other is by sharing what we know. That is how it was supposed to work. That is how it worked for 3 generations of women in my family before me, and I'm passing it on to you. My mother-in-law Opal used to say, "Waste nothing, want nothing." I believe that with my whole heart. And this right here, this $1 trick, this is the clearest example of waste nothing that I know. Take care of your fruit, and your fruit will take care of you. I'll see you in the next one.